Welcome to Royal Daily Report, your trusted source for the latest royal news and updates. I'm bringing you an exclusive story today that will shock you. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our daily royal coverage. Let's get started. For years, everyone thought Prince Harry would protect Meghan Markle no matter what happened. He left his home, gave up his royal titles, and even walked away from his family just to be with her. But now, things have changed. Inside the royal family, there's trouble brewing. And this time, it's not because of Meghan. It's because of Harry himself. Because recently, Harry made a decision that surprised everyone close to the palace. This choice shocked Meghan and showed problems in their marriage that can't be hidden anymore. Harry says it all began years ago with one email, one sentence. One small truth that showed the whole fake story their marriage was built on. Once you understand what that sentence really meant, everything looks different. This isn't just a marriage with some problems. This is a marriage built on shaky ground. And now, everything is falling apart. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to Royal Daily Report for more exclusive royal news every single day. Let's go back to when the problems first started. It was February 2018. The world didn't know it yet. But inside the palace, something weird was going on. Prince Harry had sent an email, an official one that later became evidence in court. Most people thought the email was normal, simple, just Harry protecting his future wife. Nothing strange. But hidden in those lines was one sentence that changed everything. Harry wrote, "I can't begin to tell you what it will say about the institution if this isn't resolved before the baby's arrival and wedding." At first, it seems fine, even responsible. But the people who read that email carefully felt worried because there was one big problem. In February 2018, there was no baby. No announcement, no baby bump, no rumors, nothing. So why was Harry writing about a baby arriving months before the wedding when no pregnancy had been announced? There were only two explanations. One, Harry was talking about a future baby, just hoping. Or two, Harry thought a baby was already coming right then. And from how the email sounded, the rush, the frustration, the almost panic, it didn't sound like hope. It sounded like a man trying to fix a problem before everyone found out. That single line hidden in that email became the starting point. The small mistake that showed a much bigger truth. A truth Harry never meant to reveal. Because if Meghan told Harry she was pregnant, then everything that happened next suddenly makes sense. Stay with Royal Daily Report as we uncover more shocking details. Once that email reached the palace, confusion spread quietly through the halls. Meghan had supposedly told Harry she was pregnant, and Harry, emotional, protective, overwhelmed, believed her completely. And why wouldn't he? He was in love. Deeply, blindly, completely in love. But inside the royal staff, something didn't make sense. There were no medical confirmations, no doctor appointments, no reports. Only Harry's urgent voice repeating the same thing. It needs to be settled before the baby arrives. That line kept coming up in late-night phone calls, planning meetings, and quiet conversations in offices. It was like the entire palace had been put on a countdown clock they never agreed to. And in the middle of it all, Harry grew more desperate. He wasn't acting like a prince. He was acting like a man racing against time. A man who thought everything would fall apart if people discovered the truth too early. Every decision became urgent. Every conversation became tense. Every delay made Harry panic. And behind the scenes, the unspoken question grew louder. If Meghan was pregnant, why couldn't anyone else confirm it? But Harry wasn't willing to slow down long enough to ask questions. He trusted what he'd been told. He trusted the woman he loved. And that trust was about to change his entire life. The speed of Harry and Meghan's engagement shocked even experienced royal watchers. They'd known each other for barely a year when Harry insisted the wedding must happen. Not next year, not later, but as soon as possible. Royal marriages usually move very slowly, careful, traditional, with background checks, family approvals, and plans that take years. But Harry pushed everything into a 6-month rush, a record-breaking fast wedding. Staff were confused. Senior helpers whispered behind closed doors. Even the Queen, calm and careful as always, asked for clarification more than once. And always the same pressure point came up. It needs to be done before the baby arrives. That phrase became the reason for the wedding. The reason decisions were made so fast, the reason rules were bent. The reason the palace scrambled: Meghan appeared calm, polished, glowing. Harry appeared tense, emotional, frantic. Behind the perfect photos and smiling interviews, another picture was forming. A prince racing toward a wedding he felt he had no choice but to complete. A wedding built not on time or tradition, but on urgency, on fear, on a secret no one could confirm but Harry desperately believed. And this moment, this rush, became the foundation of everything that would go wrong later. Because if the baby that pushed Harry toward the altar never existed, then the love story he thought he was protecting might never have existed either. Make sure you're subscribed to Royal Daily Report to follow this developing story. By March 2018, something strange happened inside the palace. The whispers stopped. The urgency that once pushed every royal schedule into chaos suddenly faded away. Meetings that were once frantic became quiet again. Staff who were running at full speed just weeks earlier now stood confused, wondering why the baby emergency they'd been told to prepare for was no longer being mentioned at all. It was as if the entire crisis had disappeared overnight. According to quiet rumors inside royal circles, Meghan had told Harry she'd lost the baby, a personal heartbreak the public never heard about. But others noticed the timelines didn't match. Not even close. If Meghan truly had been expecting in late 2017, the due date should have been somewhere around mid-2018. Yet no hints, no announcements, no physical signs ever appeared at the wedding in May. Then something even more confusing happened. Harry didn't act like a man grieving a loss. He acted like a man relieved that the storm had passed. The pressure he'd put on everyone else seemed to lift, but the reason behind it remained wrapped in silence. Staff took note. The Queen took note. And those who had been closest to the situation began to quietly ask themselves the same question. Was there ever a baby at all? Because when Archie was born in May 2019, almost 2 years after the supposed early pregnancy, the math simply didn't add up. Not even a little. There was no possible way that the 2017 pregnancy and Archie were connected. This is the moment the palace realized something important. The urgency that once controlled Harry might not have been based on reality, but on belief. And belief, especially when tied to love and fear, can be the strongest form of control of all. If the disappearing pregnancy created questions, Meghan's behavior created even more. People inside the palace started noticing a pattern, a strategy almost, in how she handled different situations. She had 3 different ways of dealing with any moment, like switching masks, depending on what she needed most. Mask 1, the victim. When she wanted sympathy, she knew how to soften her voice, widen her eyes, and present herself as overwhelmed, misunderstood, or mistreated. This earned her Harry's protection instantly. She knew that he had always carried emotional wounds, especially from losing his mother. Any sign of someone being hurt pulled him in like a magnet. Mask 2, the partner. When she wanted loyalty, she stepped into warmth and connection. She acted like she and Harry were a team against the world. Every decision became ours. Every disagreement with the palace became them versus us. And Harry, already feeling distant from the institution, naturally followed her lead. Mask 3, the star. When she wanted power, she turned on her shine. The confidence, the charm, the presence, the way she captured cameras and conversations. This wasn't just confidence, it was strategy. It helped her create a space inside the royal story that no newcomer had ever managed to create. And Harry, he shifted depending on which mask she wore. When she cried, he defended. When she bonded, he followed. When she glowed, he dimmed. People around him noticed the change. A prince who once felt grounded was now reacting emotionally to every shift in Meghan's tone. She had found the combination that unlocked his choices, and she used it with precision. Keep watching Royal Daily Report for the full story. Every time palace staff questioned something, every time rules pushed back, every time someone hesitated, Meghan's timing was perfect. Emotion became her strategy. Love became her tool. And Harry became the soldier, fighting a war he didn't fully understand. The trap wasn't made of metal or chains. It was feeling pure. Powerful emotion that wrapped around him quietly until he couldn't tell the difference between love and pressure. By the time May 2018 arrived, the machine couldn't be stopped. Whether the early pregnancy story had vanished or not, the wedding was happening. The Queen had approved it. The chapel was booked. The global cameras were ready. But inside the palace walls, no one forgot what had led them here. They remembered Harry's panic. They remembered the rush. They remembered the impossible timeline that forced their hands. They also remembered something else. The baby that had once been the center of every decision no longer existed in any conversation. And when Meghan walked down the aisle, flawless, collected, radiant, many inside the royal circle felt a quiet chill rather than joy, because they realized something Harry didn't. He wasn't walking into a fairy tale. He was walking into a marriage built on urgency, not certainty. While the world saw horses, flowers, tiaras, and smiling crowds, palace insiders saw a very different picture. A prince who had been steered, a timeline that made no sense, a crisis that had disappeared the moment the wedding was secured. To them, it was a wedding of strategy, a wedding of momentum, a wedding that could not be stopped once the emotional pressure had pushed it into motion. And the saddest part, Harry thought he had one. He believed he had protected his new family. He believed he had made the right choice. He didn't know, not yet, that the moment he said "I do," the urgency disappeared because its purpose had been fulfilled. The trap had quietly closed, and the cost of that one rushed moment would follow him for years. When Harry and Meghan left the palace, the world thought they were running toward freedom. Sunshine, mountains, a mansion worth more than most royal estates. It looked like a dream, the perfect place to start fresh. Harry even told friends he finally felt free. But freedom, when it doesn't come with purpose, can quietly turn into another kind of trap. In Montecito, everything felt different. The palace rules were gone, but so were the routines, the responsibilities, and the structure Harry grew up with. He didn't realize how much those invisible lines had held him up until suddenly they weren't there. At first, California life seemed exciting. New business deals, new projects, new headlines. But slowly, something in Harry began to dim. People close to the Sussex circle described him as withdrawn, irritable, restless, like a man who took off running and then realized he had nowhere left to go. Meghan thrived in their new world. Cameras, interviews, production meetings, branding opportunities. She glowed under the spotlight. Harry, on the other hand, struggled. He wasn't the prince anymore. He wasn't the hero. He wasn't the rebel changing the system. He felt like an accessory, a supporting character in a life that was supposed to be his own. And in the large, high-walled Montecito mansion, walls taller than most castles, the silence inside. Their home grew louder than the freedom outside. Everything comes back to that one sentence, one email. One moment Harry didn't realize would shape the rest of his life before the baby's arrival and the wedding. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't a reminder. It was a prophecy, one that revealed the truth long before Harry understood it himself. In that line, written years ago, was everything. The urgency, the fear, the manipulation, the reason he felt trapped, the reason he left his family, the reason he's now a man living without a crown, without a role, without the peace he once hoped love would give him. And the saddest part, Harry wasn't tricked by lies alone. He was tricked by hope. The hope that love could fix everything broken inside him. The hope that Meghan could be the one person who finally chose him for him. But sometimes the real tragedy isn't being fooled by someone else. It's realizing you fooled yourself. Now the cameras still flash. Meghan still smiles. The brand stays polished and glowing. But Harry, he walks beside her quietly. No longer a prince with a story of his own, but a man replaying the moment that changed everything. That email wasn't just evidence. It was the truth he couldn't see then and can't escape now. Cracks in a marriage don't start with a scandal. They start with a sentence. And Harry's sentence has been echoing for years. The fairy tale is over. The illusion is cracking. And the world is watching to see what Harry does when he finally stops pretending. That's all for today's Royal Daily Report. If you found this story as shocking as we did, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for daily royal updates and exclusive stories you won't find anywhere else. Share this video with anyone who follows the royal family. We'll be back tomorrow with more breaking royal news. Until then, this is Royal Daily Report, keeping you informed on everything royal. Thank you for watching.